Hello, welcome to my screencast on assessments. Here we go. Okay, so my name is Sam Sims. I'm going to be the presenter for this. And what this screencast specifically is going to be about is different forms of testing and how we can use that for individualized learning, as well as looking at some of the research about instructing children who may have a disability in reading or math. So we're going to start with criterion reference tests, and what those are assessments that measure a student's performance against a specific standard. Basically, any test written by a teacher could count for a criterion reference test, but for our purposes, it would be the Brigance test. The example is there on your screen. And basically what this provides is a written set of specifications for where a student should be in the learning process. Next we have formative assessments, and this is a variety of assessments used by teachers to determine a student's understanding and progress during any specific lesson, unit, or course. These could include tests, quizzes, worksheets, and homework, and they allow a teacher to differentiate instruction and individualize learning for students. What these can also do are help identify strengths and weaknesses and target areas that might need help, any weak spots in a student's learning. Next, we have summative assessments, and these are assessments given to evaluate student learning at the end of a unit. Focus is generally on the outcome of what the student has learned during the course of the unit, and generally is given in the form of an exam. And what the teacher is looking for here is how much knowledge the student gained, how much information was retained, and the formative testing sometimes will give a pretty good indication of what the summative data will be if the student's failing, unless an intervention occurs and correction happens. Triangulation is a means of keeping track of student data as far as learning. And what we're asking here is why a teacher should use multiple means of assessment. First off, it's required by law. You need to have at least 3 points of data to show progress in learning. And you can also use it as a teacher for personal use, meaning you can use multiple data points to track student progress, evaluate how they're doing, evaluate how their strengths and weaknesses are doing for target study, and help you evaluate your successes as a teacher through their successes as your students. And you can use something like this to kind of help keep track of that. It'll help you keep track of at least 3 data points. This is one that Mrs. Yates gave to us. You can make your own if you want. The Brigance test is our criterion reference test that we go to for determining strengths and weaknesses and the level that a student is able to test at. And this is the basic math procedure. The student is generally given a test copy, a 1-inch ruler, and a pencil. Then the test administrator will read the directions to the student and clarifies them as the student needs. The test results are recorded upon test completion, and accuracy of at least 80% indicates mastery of a particular level, and the student will be able to move on to the next level upon completion of 80% accuracy. And then generally what the test administrator will do is continue until 80% accuracy cannot be achieved on a test. However, if the student is capable of moving on, one more level may be administered just to see how well they do. So this is an example of a student's results. This is the triangulation data point sheet. What we see here in the formative and summative assessment, right here on the left, we see where this particular student started in September. The student was struggling with switching between multiple concepts, and over the course of the year, the student, through the different stuff they were doing in class, showed different weaknesses, but at the end, here in May, the student was able to better switch between multiple concepts, order fractions, label shapes, and mastered the 3rd grade level. This is all of the formal data that a teacher will turn in. Over here on the right in the other pink sheet is the teacher observation and report, and what the teacher can do here is keep track of notes as to how well the student's doing, kind of just give little points to say that the student is trying, the student's really struggling with this, this is something that the student doesn't necessarily like, just teacher notes. Down here in the center, we have the Brigance scores in math and reading. This particular student started at a grade level 2 in September in both math and reading and was able to move up to level 3 as of May. And down here on the bottom you can see the math goal, but you can't see the reading goal. The math goal was by March of 2015, the student will be able to complete math problems at the 3rd grade level as measured by the Brigance CBIS 2. And the same on the bottom, by May of 2015, the student will be able to read at a 3rd grade level as measured by the Brigance CBS 2. And did this student meet the goals? Yes, he did. That's what's important here. So using these results for instruction, what do these results give us? They give us a starting point. Now, the starting point is whatever level of Brigance testing the student achieved. And what can we do with it? We can build a lesson plan for the student using the Common Core standards and their grade level starting point. And we can use the student's testing grade level to build on all of the instruction. And the testing level is the equivalent to their instructional level. Here is an example of an individualized lesson. Go.
Hello, we're going to do something fun with math today. But before we begin, I want to ask you a simple question. Well, I like cookies. Do you like cookies? If your answer is yes, then if you can do this thing that we're about to do by the end of the lesson, I will bake you any cookie of your choice by tomorrow, and I will bring them to you, and you can eat them in class in front of everybody else. So we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. What we're going to do is divide fractions. And I promise you this is the simplest thing in the world if you follow this simple golden rule. Dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. Now we already know how to multiply fractions. We're just going to get to the part where we can multiply. So we're going to start with the 1/4. That's not going to do anything different. Okay? But we need to, in order to divide, we need to flip the second, which means the 5 and the 2 have to switch places. So that means the 5 is going to go on the top, the 2 is going to go on the bottom. Now that we've flipped the second fraction, we can multiply. Now if we remember, when we multiply fractions, we just multiply the top by the top and the bottom by the bottom. So 1 times 5 equals 5. That's the top. On the bottom, we're going to do 4 times 2. That equals 8. So in this equation, our answer is going to be 5/8, since we don't have to reduce that. And you just did that, easy as pie.
Okay, so this lesson can be recorded multiple times with varying degrees of difficulty, and students can be assigned a video that has been made just for them, and it's just like you're right there doing it with them, and you're still teaching, except you've just been freed up to move around the room, and you can help any students that might be struggling with this, and it just makes it a lot easier to teach to multiple students at once. So we're getting to the part on where we're reflecting, getting towards the end. So there's many different assessments that can be used to determine what a student might need as accommodations in the classroom. These would include the criterion reference test Brigance and the formative and summative testing. It's always a good idea to keep track of a student's data, both for legal and teaching purposes. Remember that you do need to turn in those 3 data points. Legally, that is required by law. But you can see their growth if you keep it for yourself, and you can also see places where the student might need to improve or where you could improve your teaching skills to help your students better succeed in the classroom. Knowing the student's strengths and weaknesses, as well as their level of testing, allows for better individualization of lessons. And remember that the starting point is your foundation for all of those lessons. If you have the starting point, it's possible. You can do it. There are many different ways that you can individualize a lesson. You can do videos, you can do worksheets, computer work. All of those can be individualized if you just put your mind to it. And remember, there isn't any one right way to do this. Every student is different and wonderfully unique, and that is what makes them so amazing. So what does this research say about teaching a student with a disability in reading or math? Reading and math and writing are basic skills every person is going to need to survive. And the curriculum that we have in place makes it very difficult for teachers to teach these basic skills because there's so much that they have to teach and so little time to teach it that a lot of times these basic skills get overlooked. As a result, we have a lot of problems with students forgetting things as we get further down the line, and they forget those basic steps in order to do the more complex ones. Spending time on the real-world application of relevant curriculum pieces gives students more success in the real world. Instead of being able to tell you what the book says, you should know about things that will never matter according to the Common Core curriculum and the way things are being done. We can say the Pythagorean theorem, but we can't remember how to divide fractions. You're not really ever going to use the Pythagorean theorem unless you're a mathematician, but you do need to know how to divide a fraction. There are many different strategies that can be used to help correct issues caused by a disability in reading or math, but they do take time. Some of these strategies might include flashcards, pre-reading, vocabulation increasing, lots of different ones. And they do take time to implement. A lot of times evaluations along the way are really helpful at trying to help us figure out where we could maybe focus in and spend more time on. And just remember that early intervention is the key. The younger you can identify a disability, the more strategies that can be implemented. This makes things a lot easier down the road. So I want to thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for putting up with me as I do this very first screencast of my life. And as a reward for you, here's a picture of me with a manatee statue just because I felt like it. You guys have a fantastic day. Bye.